Lucas LaVista chop saws and nail guns his way to ecstasy. A 24-year-old transfer student from New Jersey studying electronic media and film at Towson University, Lucas practices carpentry in his free time. It's his personal escape. Before coming to Towson University, Lucas spent 8 years learning woodworking. In his senior year at Roselle Park High School, he built a Dart lamp table. Lucas spent his entire senior year woodshop class dedicated to this project. Each class was 45 minutes long, and only 10 minutes out of every class were used for setting up the project in the beginning and cleanup at the end.
The colors of the Dart table are fantastic. They offset each other. I used a combination of light wood and dark wood, and they look beautiful.
The Dart table that Lucas worked on in his woodworking class is considered a prized possession. It is one of his first major projects that he completed, which played a huge role in his fascination with woodworking.
So I'll start from the table and work my way up. On the table itself, it has a cherry wood going around the outside of the table. So with that, on the inside of the table, like where you would put your stuff on, it's got two different veneers, a cherry veneer and a pine veneer. The pine kind of has a vanilla look to it, like an off-white, yellowish type of look. And then I think I used cherry for the dark veneer too. So with the offsetting, it makes it give the illusion of a dartboard. So it goes light, dark around the whole thing. And it looks like a roulette circle. It's pretty cool. And I'm working my way up. There's a brass tip going into the table that hides the wire going up to the lamp. And then the dart itself is made out of pine and mahogany, which mahogany is a hardwood, but it's a purplish wood. It's real dark purple with the pine, the same color as the veneer, with the pine on the outside. And then once you get up to the fins, it's more pine, and then the lampshade actually was pretty hard to find, but I found a really good like brass looking lampshade. It looks vintage, it's really nice. Pulls it all together.
A majority of the work was done on the machine called the lathe. Working with this machine in the wood involves a significant amount of dedication and a good test of one's will and mettle to force something out of nothing. His shop teacher provided guidance whenever he was stuck or couldn't think of a way that he had to go about the next step in building the table.
So when I first put the stock of wood on, when it was just a block, when it started turning, it was like handling a beast. Like the chisel was bouncing off the wood constantly. You were just like, and you had to hold on for dear life to just try and get it so it would become smooth. Once it became smooth, it was like buttering a piece of bread. It was just nice and smooth, and then it became, and then I started getting like the shape, and it looked, and then I started seeing the shape and making it look the way I wanted it to look. And each time I took a layer, like it was little by little, it was taken off, but each time I took it off, it just felt like I was peeling back some type of like banana or something to reveal this beautiful fruit inside of it.
There is an art to woodworking. It's something that you really have to put time and effort into. It is not as simple as taking a block of wood and going at it. You have to finesse and carefully sculpt each part of the process to give you something beautiful and functional.
I think the whole process of building a project is amazing. Like you start out with just this flat piece of wood, and then you look at it, and in your mind you see like the way the grain's going and like the way it could possibly become, and you're staring at this flat piece of wood, but in your mind you see this beautiful like piece of furniture that you're going to build, and then once you build it, you step back and go, it came out better than what I thought it was going to be.
Ethereal, ecstasy, otherworldly. These are some of the words one can use to describe the woodworking process. For something that is often referred to as work to some people, to turn around and become more of an experience is a rare thing indeed.
It's definitely the process has its moments where it's like it really uplifts me. But I think the fact that I'm taking nature and making it to something that's like beautiful, something that's growing from nature, like the fact that here's something that starts off as a sapling, but then it becomes this tree, and we cut it down and we make it into planks. The fact that I'm taking nature and reusing it for a new purpose and making it something that's going to last for years and pass down to different people, I think that's amazing. even the smell of the sawdust, like when wood's being cut, or like you go past someone cutting down a tree and you smell the pine in the air, it brings me back to these memories of working with wood and like different things of growing up and working with it. It's fantastic. The shop class had wood floors, and they weren't like normal like wood floors. They were like these little blocks of wood, like maybe 4 inches long and an inch and a half wide, and they comprised the whole wood floor. And every summer there would be a huge warp in the middle of the wood, and it would create this big bubble, like that everyone would trip on. And it's like the most dangerous thing in the shop class, but everyone knew about it. So like you knew where people were walking because you'd hear the creak of that bubble going up and down.
The skills learned in this shop class from his teacher had a long-lasting effect on Lucas. Besides the lamp table, Lucas has also built various other things like sheds, countertops, cabinets, boxes, and a frame for a bathtub and shower.
He had a running story about him, like a running gag between the students. We never really told this to him. We called him Rigucci's roofing and sliding surface because he did roofing one year, and it was during the winter. He slipped on a patch of ice, fell off of the roof, and then hurt his back pretty bad. So it's a little morbid.
His woodshop teacher wasn't the only woodworking mentor Lucas had. He also had his Uncle Dan, who Lucas would work for building cabinets, kitchens, bathrooms, mantels, molding, and tiling. Uncle Dan is in his 50s and lives with his mother in a house he grew up in.
So he is staying at the same room that he grew up in when he was a kid, growing up in that house. He has a bed in that room, old dressers, probably the same dressers that he grew up with, and a window fan that's from like the 1960s in there.
His workshop is equipped with the essentials for woodworking, which includes a table saw, chop saw, router, compressor, nail guns, drills, various standing devices, different varnishes, and various glues.
Whenever I would go over in the morning to like work with him, every time I'd open up the garage door, he'd be sitting over his workbench, smoking a Black and Mild, and the ash is falling onto the piece of wood that he's working on or thinking about, or it just falls right onto like the piece of paper that he's drawing out the plans on. And then eventually he puts it out and then starts it back up later on throughout the day, and then maybe he'll finish that one, light up another one later on in the day.
Uncle Dan already does what Lucas wants to do at a higher level. He has more experience with woodworking and has even tried to take it as a profession. There is just one problem. The need for carpentry on a regular basis is fairly low.
So he bought a table saw when he first started doing this, and I might say that's like the early 2000s that he's done it. So 16 years on a table saw, it's good time for it, but now it's starting to show its age. So he desperately needs a new table saw, and he hasn't even had time to clean out his workshop. So there's dust upon layers of dust of everything. There's scrap wood all over the floor and on the bench and on the table, and there's barely any room for him to be able to work if he does get work.
Uncle Dan is someone that Lucas holds very dear to his heart. There are some life lessons that school can't and won't teach you. Lucas has someone to teach him. Uncle Dan has taught him the value of having a good work ethic.
So since I was 16, he had me working with him. And so that was from 16 to now. I'll work from time to time. He taught me everything that I know about work ethic of like if I'm standing, you're standing. The only time you get to sit down is when I'm sitting down. So he's like, and if you're not doing anything, if you have nothing to do, grab a broom and sweep up, make it look like you're doing something. And that was a huge lesson for me to learn.
Along with teaching work ethic and having good working values, he was something like a father figure to him as well. Uncle Dan took Lucas under his wing for when it came to working on projects together and saw him more of something like a son than just a nephew.
So we just finished doing this gruesome job, and this was a huge job that a lot of us were working on, like most of my family was working on. By the end of it, he comes up and he says, "Your grandfather would be proud." And my grandfather died when I was young, but he had a huge impact on me and a huge impact on my whole family. And when he said that, it brought tears to me, and it made me think of that he was speaking for him.